met you in the half-light, where the signals hum and fade, words hanging like laundry on a wire we never made. Your eyes were doing circles like a compass without north. I was counting all the seconds I've been walking back and forth. The clock was missing numbers, the street forgot its name. Every thought I carried felt borrowed, bent and strange. You spoke in quiet riddles, like rain against the glass. I felt something loosen that I didn't know I had. So tune your heart a little closer to mine. Let the static fall behind. We don't need a perfect line, just a frequency that holds through time. I've been trading paper promises at corners of the day, watching shadows sell their stories, then quietly walk away. But you stood like a question that refused to disappear, like a song I didn't know, but somehow always here. Your laugh moves slow and sideways, like smoke across a room. I followed it instinctively, like moths follow the moon. Every step between us shortened, though we didn't move it all, like gravity remembered why it had to fall. So tune your heart a little closer to mine. Let the static fall behind. We don't need a perfect sign, just a signal that survives the night. If love's a map with half the roads erased, we'll read it by the scars we trace. No fireworks, no closing door, just echoes learning what they're for. Now the world keeps spinning stories it insists are true, but I hear a softer rhythm every time I look at you, like something ancient waking underneath the noise, a quiet stubborn harmony that never begs for a choice. So tune your heart a little closer to mine. Let the static fall behind. In the spaces between the lines is a connection learning how to shine. No names carved in stone tonight, just two voices finding light, holding on. Not too tired, listen until it feels right. Oh, 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 oh,
Good morning. I I think we're going to. I think we're broadcasting both on. Yes. Oh wait, it's connecting. All right. Well, maybe there's not going to be a Substack today. Maybe there is. I don't know. We're going to find out. Is every time. Oh, okay. Finally. Well, that was a little bit slow on the uptick, but it's there. Good morning, Wanda. And okay, well, it's always difficult when you add like not only complexity, but when you get into a systematized, structured routine, and then all of a sudden you introduced some variable like, I don't know, being in another country and not having your usual setup, and then just everything falls apart. It's just one little thing, one little element of the system, and boom, everything just for whatever reason it seems to snowball. So good morning, everybody, and welcome to the best Friday of your life. Today is Friday, right? And you know why? Because every day is a new beginning, and the only way to better your life is just to look forward to the next day. And, this is the best thing everyone is talking about, and no one can believe it. Everyone is saying no one has ever seen anything like it. That's right. That is Canada's new official land acknowledgement. And it goes something like this. Grab your cup. We're going to toast to the future of Canada, whatever's left of it. And by the way, this is not a product endorsement, just so you know. So the land acknowledgement goes like this. We'd like to gently acknowledge, gently because we're polite and we're Canadian, that we're standing on the traditional territory of, well, whoever was here savagely killing and genociding each other at the time. They aren't in charge anymore, so leave us the hell alone. And we're here until the Americans are done with Cuba. Sip. And by the way, good luck with Cuba. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. And I'm going to be down in Miami in a few hours. It's going to be interesting to see what's going on and what has transitioned. So I'm still in Florida. I'll be here for a little bit and doing a bunch of interviews next week if everything gets organized properly. We're working on it. And this past week, I was on a panel on Monday with, I have the flyer here, actually. Somebody saved it for me. With, you may know online, there's a couple of people. One was Zach Sage. He's an Instagrammer. He's all over Instagram. And he's just kind of like those very funny, trolly videos of the jihadis on the street and the communists on the street. And he's on Instagram. And then Shabbos Kastenbaum, who you've probably seen all over the place. I think he said he works for the Daily Wire now. And yeah, look at this. We got the flyer here, and Byron Donalds was one of the speakers there. And yeah, it was pretty good. So I was on a panel with Shabbos and Zach discussing many of the issues going on in the world today. And I did things a little bit different. See, what I notice at conferences, whether it's Bitcoin conferences or this particular conference is kind of dealing with, they call it countering anti-Semitism, but just kind of like the woke left, woke right, communist nonsense that's going on in the world. I think that's more direct of what the problem was. And it's interesting, you go to a conference and panel after panel, it's kind of the same thing being regurgitated by different people. And I always try to take a different approach. And I did the same thing this time. And I discussed, what we are doing that's ineffective and why, certain narratives are losing and that are the truth, and how we could push back a bit. So it's really good. I don't know if it's going to be available online. I think they were videotaping it. I'm not sure. I reached out and asked if it is. I will put links to everybody for it. It was quite interesting and it was quite good. Good morning, Maureen. And Maureen has her Canadian flag and her coffee. I think that equals Tim Hortons. At least that's what they tell me here. They tell me those who know the Northeast, Tim Hortons equals coffee to them, and Canada equals coffee to them. There's this great post from Owen Gregorian, and for those who don't know, Owen is one of the co-hosts of the Scott Adams School. So that's basically Scott Adams' live stream. He's allowed his team that were helping him out to just continue broadcasting and try to follow a similar ethos to what Scott was doing. And I was on earlier this week on Wednesday, and I have been asked to once again come on. They're actually broadcasting right now. They're the tail end of their show. So I told them, yes, I'm probably going to be back again on Wednesday, and I will more on that in a little bit. I'll kind of explain because that's related to some of the topics I want to discuss today. I think we had a good show, and it's worth going back and watching. But first, Owen, who is one of the co-hosts of the Scott Adams School, he posted an article from our friends at SciPost. That's right, everyone's hero, Eric Dolan, nicknamed Captain Obvious. He was, for those who don't know, the inside joke was Scott Adams would always highlight him. I think it kind of tormented him because every article was just the most, usually, not always, but usually the most insanely obvious things possible. So you tell me if you think this is obvious, that this required lots of extensive research and academic money, or not. So the article that was posted on SciPost that Owen shared with us is this. It says, and remember, now tell me if you didn't know this. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. I don't know. The article reads, scientists discovered a new brain pathway that rapidly depletes diet-resistant body fat. And it's by Eric Dolan. So scientists have identified a potential pathway originating in the brain that can cause the rapid depletion of all body fat, including stubborn fat deposits that typically resist diet and exercise. This process operates independently of the nervous system, signals usually responsible for fat loss, and it instead relies on a specific state of low blood pressure, low sugar, and low insulin levels. Really? The findings were published in the journal Nature Metabolism. And then it goes on to say survival depends on the ability of the body to store and mobilize calories during times of severe need. Really? Isn't that surprising? Most fat cells release energy in response to the typical signals that, like fasting or physical activity. However, humans and other mammals possess specialized populations of fat cells known as stable apis something I can't pronounce. That a scientific word that remains largely unchanged during normal calorie restriction or exercise. Okay, so we've now learned that there's stubborn body fat that will cling to your body, and what really kind of perpetuates it is blood sugar and insulin. And if you want that stubborn belly fat to be removed, if you lower your blood sugar and your insulin, then there's a mechanism in the brain that helps with fat loss. Did anyone not know this? I mean, it's a sophisticated way of describing, I think, everything that anyone who's ever exercised has known. Maybe I'm just maybe I'm strange, but I've lost a lot of weight in the past. Actually, somebody's asking me recently that because they know I'm trying to back into physical fitness mode a little bit, and they're like, why is it taking you so long to lose weight and get into shape like I had previous? And it's because I have a bum ankle. One of the things I remember from the trucker convoy, I'm reminded of it every day. Every day is the pain in my ankle because I had broken it. I don't know, I think February 4th, if I remember correctly, the date, and was set and put into surgery. And I don't know, I had a day to recover when I was on meds, and then the next day I was back, doing media and stuff. So throughout, but anyways, I am going through this process again, trying to figure out what exercises I can do and what I can't. But the point is, we have now learned that science can proved definitively now, apparently we didn't know this before, that if you have high blood sugar and you're insulin resistant, you're gonna retain body fat. Thank you, SciPost. And, Eric Tolan. Anyways, good morning, Resets. Good to see you as well. And I should see everybody. I got to get I can't have all the chats open at once, so I got to independently monitor them. But anyways, and good morning to everybody who's just joining now or who's listening in the future. So Supermicro is in trouble, and I'm sure I know what you're all wondering. The hell is Supermicro? Well, Supermicro is a manufacturer in the Far East, and there's the article going around that here's the headline. It says U.S. server maker Supermicro accused and its co-founder Yin something I can't pronounce arrested for smuggling $2.5 billion in machines with high-end NVIDIA AI chips into China, according to Fortune magazine. That's their headline. So there's basically what so funny what they're doing. It's so ghetto. Like, it's so they knew it was illegal, where they were basically trying to smuggle into and avoid the tariffs and sanctions of China, or levied against China, to bring in the newest AI technology and architecture into China. So Trump was very direct with that, saying, we're not going to cut them off completely, but we're going to ensure that the most advanced technology remains with TSMU and Taiwan and their offshoots that they're building in America. So they would stay ahead of the game with China. And I know the libertarians' heads are exploding. I get it. I understand why. But that's just kind of the world we're in. And so they have these sanctions against China. So what they were doing, apparently, was they were in mass. They were using a hair dryer, and they're trying to melt the glue on the label from the serial numbers for like the empty casings. And they're trying to put that on the advanced AI and then gluing them back. Kind of like what kids do with ID when they're 16 years old, but they're doing with $2.5 billion worth of equipment. China. And this is why I make fun of China all the time. And it's not because I dislike China. I think Chinese culture is amazing, but the Communist Party makes it an absolute s-hole. And that's what ruined it. Maureen, yes, it was. Not only was it just talking about my ankle, I've never broken anything before. And according to the doctor, I did an amazing job breaking it. Like, I couldn't have made it worse because I broke the bone into the joint. And that's why I have a metal plate and a bunch of nails. And so I'm kind of half cyborg now. But anyways, so the point is, it's in pain every day. It's just whatever it is, right? So trying to, anyways. So anyways, yeah, they were duct tape and gluing their $2.5 billion operation. And, it kind of reminds me of this whole idea. I don't know if, I know Scott Adams had touched on this. I know a lot of people who've gone to China to do business and have been screwed many times over. And there's no such, I don't know if you know, there's no such thing as an independent business in China. There's no such thing as an independent company. It's difficult for us to comprehend in the West. And look, we know there's political pressure in certain areas as well, and it's probably getting worse, not better. And that's not a condemnation of the current administration. It's just kind of the infrastructure of government. But it's far worse in China, being it's not even totally communist. It's a communist fascist hybrid. It's really strange what it is. But they're all linked to the CCP, meaning every business can just get a direct call from, I don't know, the party official that can make demands on the company and decide what they want them to do or not do. That's just kind of the way China works. And I wrote and by the way, they don't only do that in China. The bigger problem is they do this in the West as well. And I wrote an article about it that was in Zero Hedge. It's on my Substack as well. I think the Daily Bell also covered it, and it's titled "The Trade War on Main Street That No One Talks About." Really important because I experienced this directly in my old business before I decided to buy the truck and just get away from the chaos of COVID. That I saw that this with all the suppliers in my industry was changing. That these companies would come from China, they would be financed by China, so they'd be like a local distributor, but they would be, a third of the price of everybody else. And when they weren't making any money, the owner would go back to China and get a check, basically, or a transfer of money that would make up for the deficit. And the idea was to undercut all the local distribution businesses in Canada. That's how it operates. So they're scammers. They're such scammers, the communists. It's really, anyways. So yeah, Supermicro, the hair dryer, loosening the glue, and they got caught. And this was after they just recently got in trouble. I don't know, a few months ago, for some sort of embezzlement. Listen, a scammer's going to scam, right? And so this is why, and this is just another reason. Scott framed this properly. I like the way he put uh, a layer on top of it. But basically, that China is just not safe for business. And I know some people who learned that lesson the hard way. Kevin O'Leary talks about the intellectual property violations by China. It's really severe. Like, it's really extreme. Remember, there's an episode of Top Gear where they copy cars. Like, they copy cars, and now fighter jets. Like, they copy everything. It's but what are you gonna do, right? Made in China, no delineation. That's right, Maureen. I hear you. I agree. All right. I'll bring this up just because I happen to be in Miami or in Florida and about to be in Miami shortly. Cuba has all but collapsed. I think it's pretty obvious at this point, right? And there are negotiations ongoing between the Cuban government and the American government, the Trump administration, which basically means, how are you going to take us over? I think that's where we're at. So score another loss, another L for socialism/communism. For all the kids in New York that's been brainwashed into buying into this. And by the way, it's New York. New York is it's ideologically collapsing on the inside. It's wild. I was out with somebody from New York the other night who just moved down here a few months ago, who's a little bit younger than me, but explaining how bad it is. You talk about ideological subversion. That is the state of New York. But so, anyways, they're negotiating with the administration and Cuba, and I explained before that the vice president of Cuba right now, who is Castro's grandnephew, can't remember his name, but he's not. He apparently is not ideologically aligned with his uncle. That he is very much more of a free market type individual, and that would make sense since he oversaw technology and importation into Cuba for many years. He has seen the free market around the world, so I'm not surprised at all. And from what I understand, and maybe this is wrong, I'm not sure, but I'm led to believe that him and Marco Rubio have had numerous conversations, and they are very much on the same page. So hopefully we're going to see what I think we'll see probably is not a 51st state, but a Puerto Rico 2.0, or maybe something else. I don't know. But the best is Trump. you know, you know what's funny about Trump? Firstly, the lefties or the people that have no sense of humor don't understand the show. They don't understand the humor that this is. It's kind of like a little bit of prodding and agitation with kind of a little good-natured trolly humor when he speaks. But the thing that I find amazing about Trump is he's actually, in my opinion, he's just as funny, if not sometimes funnier, when you just read what he says. You don't even have to see him give the delivery. And it's so funny. So this is the comment about Cuba. I don't know. I'm sure some of you may have seen this, but not. But I couldn't. I was laughing for a half hour for this. This is what I was at the gym. I couldn't stop laughing. Everybody's like, "Wrong? What's wrong with you?" Giggling, as I'm lipping around the gym. Um, he said, and this is the quote from Trump: "I do believe I'll be having the honor of taking Cuba. That's a big honor. Whether I free it, take it, I think I could do anything I want with it. If you want to know the truth, they're very weak. They're a very weakened nation right now. I think I could do anything I want with it." you know that sets like the green and purple hair on fire. It just explodes, right? So much of it, I think so much of it comes out of envy, and I never really experienced envy until, like, I don't experience it myself, but I've never really experienced the other side of envy until Ottawa and the trucker convoy. And I remember thinking like, oh, I've heard people behave like this, but I've never actually surrounded myself with people like that. And that is the lion's share of people in politics. Just extremely envious people that couldn't cut it in the private sector, so they go to the public sector and just cheat and steal and think they're going to become rich that way. But anyways, so that is Trump's quote, and then he follows it up the next day. I don't know if you saw this. This is so good. The next day, he had a presser with the Japanese prime minister. I don't know if I should try and pronounce her name. It's Sane Takachi, I think, something like that, something Japanese. But she's super based. She's great, and he was asked by, I guess, a lefty Pan Asian journalist of some sort. I don't know if he was Japanese or not, but he asked Trump, why didn't you tell Japan about the invasion into Iran? And Trump's comment, again, you gotta look at the humor filter when he's speaking so you understand him. He says, "We didn't tell anybody about it. Who knows better about a surprise than Japan? Why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? Okay." So good. And the Japanese prime minister, who is a big supporter of Trump, and I'm willing to bet there was some help in helping her get elected, she that body language, that was cringe body language. Yeah, she likes Trump. Yeah, she probably, for somebody else it was funny, but boy was she uncomfortable there for a second. It was absolutely brilliant. Maureen says, "Love the Rogan pod with Pierre. Have you seen it?" Pierre. Oh, Pierre of the concert. He was. Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Risa told me. No, I haven't seen it. I'll probably never watch it, to be entirely honest. But anyways, that was great. You'll have noticed as well that Dugin is quite popular on X and on the interwebs right now, and that might be by design. I'm not going to say anything more, but let's just say a year and a half ago, not many people were talking about Dugin. And sometimes, if you can plant a magnet in people to their subconscious, they will start chasing it and build it out into something. And it takes some time to make that happen, right? But he's all over, and it seems to be people now understand that, because many academics were talking about it for quite some time. Stephen Hicks has been speaking about Dugin and his philosophy that comes out of both communist and fascist collectivist worldviews. That he's basically a far leftist, and he seems to have been the architect and the creator of the woke right, which are basically just lefties who have embedded themselves in the Republican Party and in MAGA and are causing havoc. And that's what you see the effects of Tucker Carlson and that whole group. So that's Duginism. That's Dugin philosophy. That's where it comes. Somebody asked me just kind of expand a little bit upon it. So that's basically where it comes from. And it's wild to see that Dugin is posting so much online. I think I mentioned this before, I think he might end. I think he's in danger of becoming the next Prigozhin, because that's becoming an embarrassment to Russia. It's getting too much negative attention, and he's getting more attention than Putin. And I don't think Putin likes that, to be entirely honest, is my guess, especially if it's an embarrassment. The Ukrainians, or maybe the Americans, I'm not sure, but probably the Ukrainians, tried to assassinate him. They got his daughter instead. His daughter and him switched their cars in the last moment. It was, I don't remember, they were somewhere in Europe. And so Dugin survived, but he embodies the ideology Hitler. He really does. And people throw that name around. I don't mean the whole death camp and all that sort of stuff. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about philosophy, the extreme identitarianism, and the extreme collectivism and socialist values and all that sort of stuff. That's what Dugin is, but he just puts a veil around him, and he calls it Christianity, and suckers believe it. I've had people tell me before, it was pretty wild, that I tried to warn somebody. One particular instance I'm remembering, and I'm trying to warn somebody who's very Christian about somebody else and saying, that guy's a scam artist. Keep away from him. And whatever you do, make sure you don't have your wallet out in public when you're with him, because you will see it gone. Like, don't trust him. And this person said to me, oh, but he's a Christian. And I couldn't believe that. I'm trying to warn somebody that he's a scam artist, and he responds with, well, but he's a Christian. That's leftism. That is left-wing philosophy. That is identitarianism, tribalism, collectivism. There's many words that describe it. And it's just very disappointed when people get swindled so easily by identifying with a tribe, even though somebody within their tribe is a total scam artist. Like, listen, I grew up, Jewish, very secular, and I've met a lot of them that are scammers too. I've met a lot of all sorts of people that are garbage and scammers from all sorts of groups. So if you're trying to apply a group identity onto an individual as justification that they're a good person, you are a leftist. That's exactly, because that's the origin of all this progressive stuff. We may not see it and understand it, but actually comes from the emotional side of caring. It's actually very Christian. It's like the ultimate wannabe Christians, because they're trying to do good for the world. That's what fuels progressivism, and it's just gone out of crazy. It's gone nuts. It's now upside down. But yeah. Anyways, that's just a thought. So remember, Dugin is a leftist, and Dugin is wearing Christianity as a skin suit, and he's doing so to try to brainwash as many people in the West as he can. Maureen, I should. What should I do? It's been a couple of minutes. I can't see all the comments coming up at once, but if you tell me, I will consider it. And I appreciate you being here all the time. You're very sweet. Wanda says there's a lot of crooked people, Christians and otherwise. Yes, this is why it's important to look at the individual, right? There are good and bad individuals everywhere. And if you succumb to group identity as justification, whether somebody's good or bad, you're just a leftist. And and sometimes people just don't realize that. That's the other problem. There's so many people that have bought into leftist, communist philosophical framing. They don't even know they are. That's how ignorant they are about philosophy. If you ask them to define their philosophical framing of the world, they wouldn't even be able to answer the question. Yet they get on the internet and start, pontificating. Anyways, sitting here with his 60-year-old veteran aerospace, the China is very communistic. Yes, it is. And I think, hopefully, maybe after we get Cuba, and I don't know, maybe Canada is next, and after that, China implodes. Because, I was fascinated to learn this about a decade ago. There are, and they've amped up over the past few years. There are separatist movements all over China, because China has so many different languages, so many different ethnicities. Like, it's not all Han Chinese. There's many different ethnicities that make up, modern China. But China is really like less than a half of the size of it actually is. That's what China is. It's been very imperialistic, and there are all sorts of independent movements that everywhere in Manchuria, Inner Mongolia, and Tibet, and all over the country that want to separate, want nothing to do with the Chinese Communist Party. And so ever since Winnie the Pooh appointed himself president for life and has been, he's the one who famously took, was it Deng Xiaoping? That was in the in their the communist their equivalent of parliament, whatever it was, and grabbed him. And what happened to him? Right? What happened to him? I don't know. Maureen says, "Watch Rogan." Maureen, I know Pierre Poilievre personally. Like I've met him a number of times. I kind of there's the gears of the machine going on behind the scenes. There's a reason he's on trigonometry and now he's on Joe Rogan. And remember when I talked about the structure of messaging and captured media? Captured media is not exclusively on the left or on the Dugin left. It's all over the place, right? But BJ, you are going to be asked about the podcast. You need to be in the know on it. No, Maureen, I know a lot more that's going on behind the scenes. Believe me. Anyways, but I don't want to get into that. I'm not going to. There's just no choice for Canada as far as I'm concerned. So I just kind of not even bother. Focus on American politics at this point, because the way to save save Canada right now, it's going to be through diplomatic pressure, overwhelming diplomatic pressure from the United States. That's the only thing that's going to fix it. Because, like you may not know, but I was one of a few people in the inside the Conservative Party for a decade, screaming at them, "Why do we have terrorists in this party? Why do you have Muslim Brotherhood in this party? Get them out. I will drag them out by their fucking ankles right now. Get them out." And but they're all a bunch of weasels and liars. So I want nothing to do with them, to be entirely honest. That's why I don't deal with politics. And by the way, there's also very good people in that party too who agree with me. And so it's interesting. I met some of those people down here. That you have the opportunists who are very adversarial towards people like myself in that party, but then there's other people that are like, "Please keep speaking up, please." They need pressure. That's the only thing that'll fix, which is why I speak up. Right. So Iran continues to be obliterated, and the latest, some guy who I can't pronounce his name, nor do I care because he's dead. He was in charge of all the Iranian sleeper cells around the world. And did you know that? Did you know they have like an individual that's in charge of the sleeper cells around the world? And for example, we all know Hezbollah is a proxy of the Iranian regime. And in Canada, we have how many Hezbollah fighters do you think we have in Canada? Take a guess. I don't think I've mentioned it on this stream before, but take a guess. What do you think? Is it going to be 100 Hezbollah fighters in Canada? Is it 500, 1,000 Hezbollah fighters in all of Canada right now? How many Hezbollah fighters do we have in Canada? Well, according to people in law enforcement and in the government, let's say at certain levels that are very high and are aware of security threats within the country, Canada has 100,000 Hezbollah fighters. Yeah, 100,000 in Canada right now. Think about that. Canada has 100,000 Hezbollah fighters in Canada. And what just happened, we got the mullahs that are scattering like rats out of Iran just arrived in Canada. How did that trash get a visa into the country? Why are they not in shackles, right? If Pablo Escobar was trying to escape Colombia when the government was going after him and he came to Canada, would he have been arrested or would he have been given a visa like the mullahs? Because that's what we're dealing with. That's how backwards the world is, right? Risa says, do you think the Conservatives need a new leader, or is that a lost cause? It's not the leader. It's the mechanism of the Conservative Party and the cowardly weasels in that party who do a lot of the manipulation, who are liberals, by the way. They're not conservative, they're liberals. And I know people say, oh, they're a liberal light party. And listen, I'm pretty centrist myself on a lot of issues. There's a few issues, I'm quite right wing on, but and others that I'm not. But that the people control the party. They're liberals, and sorry, that's just the way they're philosophically very liberal. So what they do is they take somebody like Pierre, and you can see they did it with every leader. You can tell the day when they put on they have a certain suit material in the office in like the back room of the Conservative Party, and it's that same like Xerox copy maker blue suit, the Xerox technician blue suit. And somebody gets elected leader. I always remember, Andrew Scheer, when he gave his speech at the Manning conference when I was there, or whatever it's called now. And, his pants didn't really fit right. It didn't he's kind of wearing a suit, but doesn't really know how to wear a suit sort of thing. Like it's not properly tailored. He gets elected leader. And then a week later, they pulled out the material from the back room and they made a copy of Stephen Harper's suit and then just trimmed it. And then all of a sudden he's got a suit that fits perfectly. But then they don't allow the leader to be their own person. It's the same reason I'm not involved in that party, because they only want people to whom they can control the messaging. And now they've done it to Pierre Poilievre. So in the first press conference of the trucker convoy, when I was asked, what can the conservatives do? I said, I'm paraphrasing, I don't remember the exact words I said. I said, well, the first thing they need to do is fire Aaron O'Toole immediately. And he was gone within, 48 hours after that. And then I was asked, well, who would replace him? And I said, well, the only person they really have in that party that could stand a chance is Pierre Poilievre, because people, the politicians are so stupid. And they think they're brilliant too. They tell everybody, oh, you don't know how politics works. Yeah, well, you know how not to win elections. But I do know persuasion. And mockery and humor is the second most persuasive emotion. And that's what Pierre Poilievre had that was very strong. Now, the political idiots would be like, oh, but it's going to upset the liberals. Well, it's not your base. The game of politics is not, you're not going to get liberals voting for you. Yeah, there's a little bit of that, but so minute. It's the game of try to get the other people's people to stay home. That's how it's won. People are not schizophrenic. One day they're going to vote conservative, one day they're going to vote liberal. That person does not exist. It's either I'm going to vote for my party, or I'm annoyed with them and I'm fed up and I'm not going to vote for that party. That's why what's 60% of people vote at the high end sort of thing. And so they're always, and it's so funny. They was always telling me, "Oh, don't out progressive the progressives." I'm like, "Well, you retard. What's the matter with you people? They're just so dumb." Because that's what they do. That's their entire political strategy, and why the conservatives will never win another election. They're never going to win. I mean, listen, maybe they'll pull a rabbit out of their ass the next election, but they've have no ability to persuade the other side to stay home. Zero. They're so bad at that, and unless they figure that out, they're never going to win. And so the reason I suggested that Pierre could potentially be, because he has an amazing ability to give a speech. I was at a private event at some big donors to the party's home, who have a lot of clout in that party, really nice people. And Pierre gave, it's kind of like, I produced Stephen Hicks's podcast. It's like a Stephen Hicks type lecture, but you're not listening to a professor. You're listening to somebody who's actually a politician, but he's really good. And his ability to mock the stupidity of the other side. But they want to play it safe. So they don't want to mock the stupidity of the other side. So they now have lost the second most persuasive emotional state to reach people. And then they put him in the Stephen Harper suit, and they try to make his hair look like Stephen Harper. Like it's like a cult, right? It's crazy. You got to let people be their own people and embrace their flaws. That's what Trump does. But until they do that, they stand absolutely zero chance. I hope that helps. But anyways, so yeah, we have 100,000 Hezbollah fighters in Canada right now, and CBSA keeps issuing visas to mullahs. There you go. All right, I was on Scott Adams on Wednesday this week, and I'm just a quick, so you can go back and watch it. I think it was what I was trying to do is because some of the people who watch that platform, they're confused on Iran as to why Iran is important or not. And I think most of you are on side of that, but I'm sure some of you are not. And so what I was trying to do was trying to illustrate why is it so dangerous that countries like Canada have 100,000 Hezbollah fighters inside of it currently right now. And I gave the example of, I talked a little bit about AMIA. So AMIA is the community, the Jewish community center that was bombed in Argentina. And a lot of people are like, okay, well, just a Jewish community center, or whatever. It's no, they don't understand the significance of it and the symbolism with it, which in that part of the world, symbolism is everything. Because it's a third world asshole. That's all you got is symbolism, right? And so I explained the first two, and you should all watch this. And I'm thinking maybe I should do something on the stream here, maybe cover some of it. But there's a documentary on Netflix called Nisman, the prosecutor, the president, the spy. That is the story of Alberto Nisman, who was the prosecutor who was investigating the bombing of AMIA, and he was Jeffrey Epstein. So, he committed suicide the day before the trial that he was going to end Kushner, the communist president's career for good, because she was aligned with and helping Hezbollah. So watch the documentary. It'll explain a lot. It's pretty wild. It's very, very well done. But I added a little bit of the context from before what led up to that. And I actually spent some time with a friend of mine, his wife actually, who's Argentinian and very politically astute. And she, long before she moved to Miami a few years ago. And so I had her walk through some of the stuff I knew, but she filled in the gaps quite a bit. And the context leading up to this documentary, Nisman, the prosecutor, the president, the spy, was this. So they had a president by the name of Carlos Menem, and Carlos Menem was elected in 1989 as a leftist president. There's a reason this is important. He was a leftist president. He gets elected. He appoints as the economic minister. Minister economical. He appointed Domingo Caballo. And Domingo Caballo, or as I mentioned, I don't know, Argentinian Spanish is weird. I don't know if it's Caballo or Caballo, but whatever. In regular Spanish, it's Caballo. So they appointed Domingo Caballo as the Minister of the Economy, and he took a hard right economically. So they got elected on a left-wing platform. They got into the office, and then all of a sudden they pivoted. And it's the same reason that all politicians pivot. Why do they pivot? Because now all of a sudden they know something they didn't know before, right? Most politicians are not nearly as ideologically aligned as we think they are, as the rest of us are. They're not. They're more like salesmen. Like what sells, and that's kind of their job. What do the people want? Okay, we're supposed to do what the people want. All right, what are we going to be able to sell? We're not going to be able to sell, right? And so when Carlos Menem was elected, his wife at the time, her name was Zulema Yoma. Yeah, it's not very Argentinian, is it? Right? Zulema. No es el nombre latina. And because Zulema Yoma was Argentinian, it's not Argentinian. What am I saying? She's not Argentinian. She's Syrian, and she's a Syrian Islamist. Like her name might as well have been Muhammad, right, or Ahmed Muhammad. And a lot of these Islamists, she didn't wear hijab. She wore makeup. She was very pretty, very integrated, and looked and behaved Argentinian. But she's not. She was an Islamist, right? So she was a Syrian Islamist, and apparently a large part of Menem's campaign donations came through her campaign donations, which is why he was a hard left, because that's, those who pay get to say. It's just how the world works. And so he took this pivot to the right, and his wife, Zulima, divorced him after 2 years. So I think we might have had a spy engaged in a marriage, because a lot of that does actually happen. A lot more in politics than people realize. And sometimes the people who are in those relationships don't even realize it themselves. It's really kind of freaky. So shortly after, once he made that pivot to the right, and it was obvious he was not going to go back to the left, the first thing that happened was his son, Carlos Menem Jr., was killed in a very suspicious helicopter killing. There seems to be a lot of that in Latin America. Something like that happened in El Salvador recently as well. Some witnesses, the only witnesses in a particular case, all of a sudden they're all dead. And I guess case closed, right? So Menem's son was killed in a helicopter accident that was quite suspicious. And and then the next thing was the AMIA was attacked in the bombing. And this is the part that's always frustrating, is why? Why was AMIA bombed? What's the reason? And sometimes it's always difficult to get people to I think they know, they just don't articulate it. Well, I'm going to articulate it. The reason the AMIA bombing happened in Argentina, where 85 people were killed and 300 were injured, and like the whole block was a big bomb. It was a big truck bomb. Is because apparently this happens a lot. Apparently, when a new leader comes to power, if there is, and I've seen this on my end. I don't want to talk more about it, but I've seen this happen as well, and not from this particular country, but from other countries. You get in the hot seat, you're elected, you're now president, you've established your cabinet. Countries that have information will sometimes, through reciprocity, they will give you something. And in the case of Israel, what do? They give intel and information to other countries when they have terrorist infrastructure in it. And apparently, Israel contacted the Menem government and gave them intel on, hey, you have a few tens of thousands, maybe, Hezbollah terrorists in your country, and they're affiliated with the left-wing party, and they're funding things. You might want to do something about it. And so they get the warning, and they get the package and all that sort of stuff. So apparently the reason that AMIA was attacked is because Israel were the ones who outed all the Hezbollah activity that was occurring in Argentina, and the Menem government realized, like, oh, okay, we got a problem. We can be left-wing and all, but we can't be surrounded by terrorists, because they're just going to destroy. It's like a cancer. They're like rats. They destroy everything. They turn every country into a shithole. And Argentinians have a lot, despite the fact they've been dealing with this Peronism since the 40s. They're quite proud of their culture. I have yet to meet an Argentinian who doesn't tell me they're Italian. But anyways, so they took it very seriously, apparently. And that is why there was a target of his son in retribution. And that is why the AMIA building was bombing, as punishment or retribution from Hezbollah to Israel for leaking intel of all the Hezbollah terrorists in Argentina. And Kushner, well, I'll just, this last thing, and then you have to watch the documentary. Kushner, let's just say, was a little bit too chummy with Hezbollah, like all communists are. That's the whole red-green alliance that we talk about. And this is why it's so significant. And you don't see, it's funny, you don't see it in the news. People don't see this sort of stuff in regular nightly news, which is designed to be for people who are passively engaged and not really paying attention. And this is highly specific and very nuanced and very complex, which is why you don't see it in any media, and people don't understand what's happening. But when you understand all the pieces, how it fits together, now you can understand some of the behavior of some countries around this red-green alliance Islamic terrorism problem. And the same reason they don't actually fight it when they should be in certain countries like parts of Europe and in Canada. And maybe I'll discuss that next time and I'll explain why. Why is Canada not fighting all the terrorists in their country? Somebody's ringing. It's not for me. Don't worry. It's not for you either. Good morning, Heidi. ¿Cómo estás? I hope you're well. Hold on. 1 second. All right. Sorry about that. That was annoying. See, this is what happens when you're not in your home studio. So that's a little bit of context. I discussed that, on the Scott Adams stream for people who are just really, some of them just really don't understand Israel, and some of them don't really care about Israel, and I get that. They don't understand why it's important. But this is the reason it's important, because not only is it, and Israelis get upset at me when I say this, but it's true, geopolitically, strategically, militarily, okay? I'm not talking about anything beyond that. Israel is America's aircraft carrier on the front line with Islamic terrorism, right? And now they have 3 other aircraft carriers in the region. That's why it's become so important for U.S. national security and largely Western national security. And they're the ones who know everything that's going on with all the terrorist, goat effers in that region. And so much so that even the Emirates and now Bahrain and all these other countries are realizing, like, okay, you know what, the Israelis are pretty good at this, and maybe we can stamp out some of this, 6th century nonsense and build an economy, because they know their current economic models are not sustainable, right? Heidi, what's the name of the documentary? It's actually, I think it's 6 episodes, if I'm not mistaken, maybe an hour long. It's called Nisman, which is Nisman. So his name is Alberto Nisman. The prosecutor, the president, and the spy. So if you go to Netflix and you type in the prosecutor, the president, the spy, you'll find it. I watched it over a couple of weeks. It's really good. It's really well done. It's a lot of subtitles because a lot of it's in Spanish, not all of it. There's some FBI people there and speaking in English and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, that's right. That's how you spell it. But really, it will teach. I encourage everybody to watch it, because if you understand Israel or not, that's not the point. I'm not here shilling for Israel. But it will teach you how countries like Iran, the IRGC, Hezbollah, Muslim Brotherhood, how they operate in the West and why they're so dangerous, right? So I've had people ask me, well, when was the last time the IRGC blew something? And there's all sorts of things that have been disrupted and things that have not been. But the point is, that's where they lead to. The last thing that happens is the violence, usually. It's the build-up in infrastructure first, of getting their politicians in power, buying the political strategy, utilizing the political strategy they need to control political parties, which is what's happened. It first was the NDP, then it was the Liberal Party, and now it's the Conservative Party, which is why I was screamed at. And that's why a lot of, the conservative idiots online, the ones that are like party hacks, that's why they attack me, because I know all the Muslim Brotherhood figures in the Conservative Party, and I don't shut up about it, like behind scenes, right? And I've warned them repeatedly. I told them a long time ago, in 2015, I think. Well, after the election, when they were talking about kind of the way the Conservatives wanted to move forward, and I was with a couple of MPs and one of the party strategists, and I said, "No terrorists, no terrorists. You get any terrorists in the party, I'm going to sell you guys out. I'm going to become your worst nightmare. No terrorists." And they didn't listen. They brought the terrorists into the party with open arms. Now, maybe they're trying to fix that now. I hope they are. But that's when I just okay, I'm done. They're garbage car salesmen like anybody else. Crappy car salesmen, not good car salesmen. They're good car salesmen, especially when they sell good cars. Anyways, that's kind of half teasing. Listen, you gotta be. There are good people in that party that really are as concerned as you and I, and they're trying what they can do. And then there's people in Jim Kalaharios' party on the Ontario level in New Blue who are also equally concerned about this. So there's people who are aware, but Canadians are so passive. You always got you behave more like an American, and I'm like, okay, well, thank you. Because I'm not afraid to call a spade, and it is what it is. So Anyways, I think we're on the right track. BJ, I tagged you in Facebook in a photo album of me in Kuwait in 1977. My family drive in the desert. You had a flat tire in Kuwait in 1977, surrounded by goats. I could say something very rude, Maureen, not about you, obviously, but about certain people there. But I'm going to refrain from that. But that's hysterical. I will. I don't use Facebook very much. I actually try not to use social media very much at this point, aside from posting here and there. But I will. I'll check it out. I'm gonna dip out in a minute because I got to pick somebody up in Fort Lauderdale and then head down to Miami for a meeting. But I will check it out tonight or in the morning. But thank you. That's very sweet of you, and thank you for being here. That's I appreciate you consistently being here. You and Heidi and Risa. I know Beth can't be here today because she's at work, and I think Jesse's dealing with some stuff. But and then we have everybody over here that's on Substack. So, anyways, Wanda says soon they will outnumber our military. Is this the plan to control the people? And I think maybe, I don't know that things are such a plan. Things are usually just more of a Dilbert cartoon. Just a lot of incompetence and stupidity and competing interests and opportunists or just looking for money. And I think that's really what kind of lends it to it. But I remember many years ago when I created Tom Quiggin's podcast and was producing it, and we found, the RCMP and the Canadian military were recruiting in Muslim Brotherhood mosques. Like, hey, maybe we shouldn't have ISIS as part of our military, right? Call me crazy. Maybe that's just not a good strategy. But I apparently I know nothing about politics. It's just the way it works. Crazy. Anyways, you're all amazing, and I love you all. I think I'll tell you one thing. Some good stuff. I am here. I've been at so many different events and meetings with people. Not just the event I spoke at, but other events since. I'm going to be doing a webinar with one of the national security NGOs that I've spoken at before here in Florida. We're doing a webinar on April, I think the 15th, if I'm not mistaken. And I might be put on on one of the NGOs. I might be put on one of their speaking lists for next year as well, and a bunch of other stuff that's going on here. Things are good. Like, I could only dream that we are today. 10 years ago, just that would have seemed impossible and a fantasy. And here we are. People are speaking openly about it. They're fed up. And, anytime you see the extreme rhetoric on certain issues, like people go, oh, it's too extreme. No, that's good. That's an indicator that people are waking up. It doesn't mean you agree with the more, extreme rhetoric with relation to the Islamist issue, but that means that everybody's just fed up with self-censoring and they want to speak openly and honestly. That is a good indicator of greater freedoms to come in the future. Now, possibly not in Canada, but whatever. Heidi, the PPC any better than the CPC? No, the PPC is controlled by the CPC. So the executive director was of the PPC before he took over was campaigning for Pierre Poilievre 2 months before he took over the PPC. So it's a containment party. There's lots of it's a common strategy in democracies where you have a multi-party system. So it's just a containment party to park the crazies. So the conservatives can try to appeal to the liberal voters, which is why they're going to lose. They're just going to lose. That's it, because they have no idea how to persuade. And instead of reaching people like myself and others who know how to, they do well, you don't know anything about politics. We'll figure it out. All right. It's okay. And by the way, no ill will. Again, there's very good people inside all parties that are really concerned about this issue. The key is those people just need to be able to get enough political capital that they don't get their political heads cut off if they start speaking out, right? So when I say this, I'm partly in jest, so people don't get so offended, right? There's that expression, if you're easily offended, you're easily brainwashed, right? So we can all joke with each other, not take it so seriously, and hopefully things will improve. But yeah, that's what happens in this multi-party system. Containment parties. Jim, the New Blue is not a containment party, by the way. They're ensuring to keep all that stuff out, so there's no political establishment people in it. So you like their platform, great. You don't like their platform, okay, great. But that's at least on the provincial level in Ontario, that's an alternative. Anyways, so the point is, down here, the view from Florida, everything's great. People, I was at an event last night. People talking openly about this issue. People are not afraid to speak openly anymore. They were less afraid, anyways, to begin with here. But people are just done. They're fed up with the identity politics. They're fed up with the nonsense. They want things fixed. And we're going to get Cuba, right? You're going to have Venezuela, Cuba, Iran, maybe Canada. I don't know. What's going to be after that? I don't know. I think things are good. So with that, I got to run. I'm trying to do the Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I couldn't do it last week. I had another meeting come up last minute. I was told about on Friday night or Saturday night, whichever it was, the day I missed it. I have somebody flying in to Miami from South America that I have to kind of entertain, friends I haven't seen for a couple of years, very, very close friends. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to squeeze in a stream tomorrow. I'm going to try to, and then I'm going to have to be going over to the other side of the state. So things are a little bit in flux. I will try, if I can, to do a stream tomorrow and on Sunday. If I can't, I can't, but I'll do something. And then when we're in studio next week, if everything kind of comes to fruition, because there's some complications because somebody is sick, if I'm in studio, I'll do it there. If not, if he's sick, we'll park that and push that to April or May. And then maybe I'll do some more streams during the week here. But anyways, you're amazing. Maureen, thank you for the link. I will check it out. I hope all of that is helpful. You may agree or disagree, but we still love each other, whether we agree or disagree. And if we do more of loving each other while we disagree and we get everybody else to copy it, guess what? The world's going to become a lot better place than it has been in the past. On that note, I got to run. So I love you all, and I will talk to you all very, very soon. Have a good day, and be kind to strangers. Just not the strangers driving the ice cream truck named Mohammed who's trying to talk to little children. All right, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.